Yo, what's going on, everybody? Huh? It's Friday. Little crappy weather outside. Hope you guys are doing well. I'm going to hit you with it again, though. You ready? Hold on. All right. 3, 2, 1. Yo. Yeah, we're doing it. We're doing it. We're here. We're live. It's Friday. There's a lot going on tomorrow. It's going to be fun. Tomorrow's going to be a blast. Let's show off the new shades, though. You guys ready? We got to do the switch. We got the shades in. Whoop. We're going to do this, and then we're going to do this. Oh, my God. Oh, that went right down the wrong pipe. Hope you guys are doing well. Yeah, we got the shades. We got the new shades. Honestly, they do a better job of holding back the locks. The luxurious, brown locks, I should say. Luscious and luxurious brown locks. I don't know what. How can hair's not luxurious? I don't know. It's been a crazy morning. I've had 3 different car dealerships call me this morning, but on the phone, ran into an old friend at Harps down the road here. Went and I had to grab me some stuff for lunch. Been a wild morning though. I hope your week was great. We didn't go live on Wednesday, but we did drop a video. It was basically a cut from Monday's show. But you guys know I'm trying to get you content 3 days a week at least. Well, obviously the post game counts really as 4, so it's 4 days a week. We try to go live and get it done. What's up, Pigpen? Woo Pig Suey? Gotta get a sip of the Celsius. All right. Yeah, these I love them. I ordered them like, I don't know, 3 or 4 weeks ago, and it took them a while to come in, but I'm glad they're here. Ty coming in hot like melted butter, baby. That's right, Kopesky. How you doing, man? Oh, hot take Kopesky, huh? Listen, we all have hot takes from time to time. Some are just out of absolutely nowhere. And then also they don't tag people in their hot takes. Tag people. Whoever you're responding to in Discord, tag them. We don't know who you're talking to, Kopesky. Michael. Beautiful weather here in Northeast Arkansas. Man, it is crappy outside. It's, and you would think with it being as cloudy with the rain, oh man, it's going to be like high 50s, nice cool breeze. No, hell no. It feels humid. Sam Pittman turned his Twitter off. That's wild, says Scott. Yeah, we're gonna dive into a little bit of all of it. Hey, make sure you guys like, share, and subscribe. We got to land the plane here. We took off. It was a rough takeoff. We're just now up in the air. We're nowhere near. We don't have our landing gear down yet. We just got up in the air. We got to have a smooth, zero turbulence ride on this show. We got to. I got a little cocky. Upset alert, says Shahid Mustafa. Yeah, we'll get there. We should hire the best O-line coach in the nation to fix it. O-line will continue to struggle until changes are made. Yeah. I don't disagree that the offensive line, if things continue to go as they have, I don't know how you look at this scenario and go, oh, yeah, we don't need any changes. At the very least, Sam needs to be as involved with the offensive line as humanly possible. At the very freaking least, right? I think we're all in agreement here with that. I just got a DM. 3 different car lots? Yeah. What a sex icon Ty is, right? Got to represent for the big boys. Turning KJ loose would help, says John Oliver. Anthony says, why hasn't Sam taken over coaching the offensive line? Well, I would imagine it's because he has a team to run, and he wants to facilitate everybody. He doesn't want to view as though like maybe he's playing favorites. Maybe it could be that. I don't know. I have been unable to go to practice this week because of my issues with I don't have transportation at the moment. I do. I don't trust it going into a neighboring town right now. So I'm just kind of stuck. I was unable to go, but I think it was Mason Choate that uploaded a video. Someone, and I hadn't watched it yet, but they uploaded some footage from practice, and they said that Sam was involved with the offensive line. That he was around them. That he was there at least at the very least monitoring what was happening with the offensive line. I'm going to say he needs to do a little bit more than that. I think he needs to be directly involved, and maybe he is behind the scenes. Maybe he's been in the film room. And look, I don't know that he'll ever publicly admit doing that. He doesn't want to make his coaches look bad. He doesn't want to make an assistant or a coordinator or a positions coach look bad. I don't know that you'll ever hear him come out and say, yeah, I had to go into the film room and help him. We had to do this when the media wasn't there, where you guys couldn't see us. Because the media gets 20, 30 minutes in I think it's a 2-hour practice every day. You don't get to see the whole picture. So you'll never really hear him come out and say that, right? Have you been to a game in Baton Rouge? I've never been. But I hear you could smell the corn dogs about 10 miles out. Um, 30s here in Alaska. See, now, I mean, I would take that over humidity. I'm hot-natured, man. I'm always hot. Sam did leave Twitter. Now, I should say X. It's funny because it's wild because there's been some sites that published articles about him leaving Twitter, and I guess it's newsworthy. I put state of the program, and I will include that as something that you look at through the optics. I know a lot of you are going to be like, who gives a shit? And I get it. I get it, especially the older crowd. They don't care about Twitter. You also do have to look at it from the point of view, though, of the younger crowd, the younger generation. Whether you want to do it or not, they do have some say in what we consider to be the state of the program, because they are fans. They're going to the games, or they're watching the games. They're buying Razorback merch. And I've seen, and I'm not saying that I agree with it, but I've seen people call this a very Chad Morris-like thing to do, to run and hide from the mean comments on social media. I don't know that I agree with that or not. I tend to agree with the people who say, you know what, this is a distraction for him, and if it's really bothering him to that extent, if it really is that big of a distraction, which he's not very active on Twitter, at least from a posting standpoint, then he needs to leave if it is that big of a distraction. And I agree with that. I think that's perfectly fine, and I think that's probably what happened. I think that's the most likely scenario. But you do have, and they're a pretty vocal part of this crowd, especially on Twitter, not so much on Facebook. But on Twitter, that is something, you've seen people really go after him about doing that. People who flap their gums on Twitter, but they don't say anything. They don't offer any real substance, which is fine. That's their right to. I mean, hell, it's what Twitter is. Like 90% of it, it's not. There's no substance there. You get these guys that say some controversial things. They catch a little bit of attention, and they grow their followers that way. And then when you actually hear them talk in Twitter Spaces, you're like, Jesus, why do people follow this guy? Like, I don't get his appeal. I don't know. Maybe people think that about me. I don't know. I'd like to think I've done okay. 1 million total views, hundreds of thousands of hours watched. I think I've done all right. My like to dislike ratio is really good on YouTube. I'm no Trey Biddy, but by God, I do the best I can with what I have. So, those people, it's been a lot of them are flapping their gums on Twitter, saying that this looks bad, from an optics standpoint. And maybe they're right. I mean, maybe they have a point. I just tend to believe that if it's a distraction, walk away. And he did that, and that's great. And if I had that option, if I wasn't doing what I do, I wouldn't be anywhere on social media. I'm telling you, I would only keep Facebook just to keep up with friends and family, just to see pictures. Twitter, I would stay there, but I would only follow sports and politics. That would be it. I wouldn't. There's a lot of fans I would not follow on Twitter that I currently do follow. I don't know why I do. I'd want to get as far away from the bullshit on Twitter as humanly possible. And that happens in the political space as well. I get that. But, like, you know, there's fanatics in all forms. But I'll just say this again. I have no problem with him leaving Twitter. Now, for the people that believe this is some kind of recruiting disadvantage, what? I don't understand that take at all. And I have seen that, actually. I've actually seen that on Facebook. Some people I'm friends with on Facebook make this claim. Well, that's going to kill our recruiting. What are you smoking? No, it's not. He's got people, the U of A's got people monitoring high school coaches, athletes, players. You know, they're there, okay? They're social media. They're very well aware of what's going on. As long as Sam Pittman has a cell phone and a job at the University of Arkansas, he's going to be able to recruit at the same level he was before he ever made a Twitter or X account. He's fine. So if you're concerned about recruiting, I'm just going to tell you this is not going to have a major impact. Now, you could say that, well, the action of deleting his Twitter might have an impact on some of these players. Like, oh, he can't stand the heat. He got out of the kitchen, so maybe that'll have some kind of an effect. I don't know how anyone knows that. You can't read a player's mind unless they just come out and say it. So I don't think that there's anything wrong with him walking away. I'm kind of glad that he did. If it's a distraction, get the hell out. You need to be focused on LSU. It's not a disadvantage if you don't use it to recruit in the first place. Yeah. I mean, you're not wrong. I mean, he does. I don't know that I've ever heard him say, oh, yeah, we saw this kid's – I personally saw this kid's highlights on Twitter, and I was all over it. No, they've got staff for that. Me seeing Wilson continue to start over Centennia when it doesn't make too much sense to me with the drops. Yeah, I wouldn't – I don't know. Ty, don't sell yourself short. Love your work. Thank you, Tercer. I appreciate you. You guys know what's up. You're here. Hey, make sure you like, share, and subscribe. If you want to show some extra support for your boy, consider joining Patreon. I don't know that I'm going to break 60. Arkansas Razorbacks aren't doing me any favors by losing to BYU, so all of a sudden the hype and excitement for football kind of goes out the window, and less likely people are to join Patreon. That's fine. You know, I've been doing this for a minute. But if you do want to consider showing some extra support for your boy, consider signing up for Patreon. We do have, in fact, we're going to do I'm going to try tomorrow. We're going to do we're going to have an event for Discord Patreon members. So make sure you're active there. We're going to turn on Triple XP tonight in Discord. So if you want to catch up to Austin, good luck. But if you want to do that, if you want to catch up to Austin, you're going to have an opportunity tonight. And there's all sorts of predictions. I got to hand out a bunch of XP to somebody last night. It's a lot of fun. All right. So, Ty, all these next four. So, Ty, of all these next four, what games mean more, wins or loss? Well, Kopetsky, I'm trying to take it one game at a time. You know, I'm not doing the thing where I'm like, and I did this a little bit last year, where with every loss or every week, it's like I'm giving you my new prediction on wins and losses. I'm not doing that. What I will say is I'm definitely off my 9-win. Definitely off that. And you know, some of you are probably going to be like, well, yeah, no shit, right? Yeah, Ty, I never had him going bowling to begin with. That hindsight, let me tell you the power of it. But, you know, I mean, can they climb back up where I think they should be? It's possible. So we'll talk about that and more. Yeah, I mean, we're straightening. We're not a whole lot of turbulence. We're riding along pretty good here. I'll be around Discord, but definitely not working my schedule around football games. Oh, God, that's harsh, John. Really? You're already that far off. You see what I was saying a minute ago? I just said it a minute ago. People, you lose a game, that's it. People just drop off, and that's fine. You don't want to deal with the pain. I get it. Stephen Brim. I'm just going to call you Stephen Brimley. I was talking myself into 10 wins. I'll just prepare for the worst and hope for the best. There you go. That's the best way to look at it. Hey, make sure you guys check out the links provided for you down below in the what used to be called the description box. Now it's under the More tab under this video. Shout out to, of course, Patreon supporters, the legendary status members. Oh, my gosh, you guys are awesome. The $8 and up people, really appreciate you. Also, shout out to the Odd Soul Craft Bar and Pizzeria, the bar located on Emma Street in Springdale, Arkansas. Whenever Arkansas comes back to Fayetteville to play, maybe you'll consider dropping by the Odd Soul. Great pies, wonderful staff, awesome environment, good stuff on tap, on good IPAs, man. Odd Soul's where it's at. Also, of course, direct service overhead, the Garage Door Company. Same-day services, quality parts, affordable outcomes, hundreds of 5-star reviews. Their link is also provided for you down below, or you can give them a call at 501-244-3667. That's damage done to your door. If you need the springs replaced, if you need the rotary girder, if you guys know if you guys caught that, if you know what movie that's from, I'm gonna give you 5,000 XP in Discord. The rotary girder, you know the line from a certain movie. I won't name the actor, but he's a legend. Someone will catch that. I hope someone catches that. Anyways, direct service overhead, they do it all. So give them a call today or go check out their website, provide for you down below. Yeah, if we win 2 of the next 4, we might get our confidence back. Listen, I think if you play well tonight on the road in Baton Rouge, they can get their confidence back. Listen, that line is still 17.5 points, right? Or did it go down? Or did it go up? Let's check here. I think it's still 17.5. I looked at it. Pretty sure I looked at it this morning, and it was, 17.5. It's game time weather, 87 degrees. And you know it's going to, oh, my God. It's going to be so humid. We complain about humidity up here in NWA. Oh, my God. I can imagine in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. The over-under right now is sitting at 55,000. They're expecting a packed house, so you're talking 102,000 people. It's going to be a really tough environment. It's going to be a really tough environment for Arkansas to overcome. I think if you make this a game, that's going to boost your confidence. I'll just say that. If you can make this into a game, beat the spread, great teams cover, right? I think that's going to be a confidence booster. I really do. LSU, I said at the beginning of the year, I don't buy them as a top 5 team. I still don't. But I think they are legit top 15, top 20 caliber team, and I think they've shown that so far this year. And so you've got that combined with the fact they're going to be in Baton Rouge, they're going to be at home. You got to face Daniels. This is tough, man. You would love for this to be an 11 a.m. kickoff. ESPN saying you can get tickets as low as $43. I don't know is that accurate? There's no way that's right. Saturday night in Tiger Stadium? No way. $43? I mean, yeah, they're going to be the worst seats in the house, but I just can't see them being that cheap. 9-win season. 9-win season from time to time. That's Arkansas. We are who we are, says Marcus Murdoch. What's up, Marcus? That's a Tuss Talk with Ty YouTube member right there. We had a super chat. Marcus Murdoch. Here's his point. This is what Marcus Murdoch says. We lost by 7 after 160 yards. Well, it was 125 yards in penalties. But you're not wrong. I hear what you're saying. On 14 penalties, how many of those were on offense? Too many. Gave them short field position all night. Things aren't as bad as they seem. Come on, people, says Marcus Murdoch. Appreciate the super chat, Marcus. Remember, guys, like. If you have any questions or comments, fire away. I do my best to read as many of these comments. Obviously, if you super chat, it's going to get read. I'm batting like 900 on reading super chats. Maybe even higher than that. Arkansas is better than you think. Says Daniels panics when he is pressured. Our D-line is our best defensive unit. I think it'll be interesting. I think that's a good take. Now, maybe you've watched more Daniels film than I have. Every quarterback panics a little bit. I mean, there was nothing that I've seen that really stands out. But if there's a team that can make him uncomfortable, I think Arkansas has that capacity to make him uncomfortable and get him to scramble, get a little worrisome. And then it's about outside containment. Then it's about, are you spying him and who's doing it? Who could chase him down? You know, who's Googling rotary girder right now? Oh, my God. No one's gotten it yet, have they? Come on. Someone. I don't want to give any hints because one hint will give the whole damn thing away. I did in Discord. What'd you do in Discord? Oh, did you give it away in Discord? Well, you got to do it here. I'm not reading Discord. But yeah, no, you got it. You got it. That's it. But don't say anything. Let's see if someone in chat gets it. But that is it. That's right. It's a great movie, man. I'll say this. The lead in that movie has been dead now for a minute. He's been dead for a while. But the movie was in the 90s. It's a cult classic, fantastic film. There you go. He got it. Yeah, he said it in chat. Damn it. Great movie, man. When he hits his head and they're looking at him, and he goes, it was the rotary girder. They have a tendency to lose composure in tight games. Is that 100% coaching? They've also won some close games, but, man, you look at last year, they lost how many games by single digits? I mean, yeah, you could argue that is certainly certainly something that it'd be a good conversation. That would make, maybe not in this live, but in a Discord, that would be a really good live conversation. Is coaching one of the pillars that's kind of slowly crumbling, and that's why why they've lost so many close games over the last two seasons. Let's get back to the state. Let's start the state of the program part of this show really quick because we're not even 30 minutes in yet. The optics, certainly, the conversation that I'm having with people, you can call that anecdotal all you want, and you wouldn't be wrong, but I'm not the only one having this conversation with people, and I'm also not the only one that's seeing this conversation being had across Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, talking to people. I talked to my dad this morning. He was already wanting to talk about coaching, just the possibilities of what they do with the next coach. The state of the program right now is that it feels like this thing is slipping out of Sam Pittman's hands. That considering this game, considering the lineup of games that you have coming up, you were supposed to beat BYU. That is an accurate statement. You should have beaten BYU. You had more coaching turnover, and you attacked the portal and all this. You did all but you still have more talent. You were at home in front of 70, whatever the number was. It was 74,000 plus. Isn't that right? Wasn't it 74? There was just, when you pile up the mistakes, when you pile up some of the excuses, I'm not saying Sam's necessarily making them all, but just listen to what other people have to say. It certainly seems like this could be the beginning. Like, this kind of feels like when we look back, if there is a change a year away from now, let's be real, I and I'm not going to sit here and say that we need to have the conversation about Sam being terminated. I don't know that we're there yet. Because it was, like someone pointed out, it was one loss by 7 points, and you made a whole bunch of mistakes. But again, to the other side of the aisle's point is that this is always the case. They have lost too many games by making too many mistakes or turning the ball over in key moments, getting penalized in key moments. This happened. This is going back to last year. This happened. Goes back to year one, which we excused because it was year one and it was COVID, so we just kind of pushed that to the side. You could make that same comment about 2021. There were some games that were really close. You probably should have won, but you still were able to excuse those because you still won 9 games, including your bowl game. I said then, and I still believe it to be the case, that 2021 season bought him 5 years. I still believe that's the case. Now, let's say the bottom does fall out of this. See, I said we weren't going to do it, but here we are. If the bottom does fall out, they go 3-9. 4 years. What is the choice? What is the call? What does Hunter Yurchek do? You know, I know there's a lot of talk about buyout, and we have to, you know, when you're considering his salary and what he makes, is it competitive? Can we afford to do all that? But at some point, very similar to Chad Morris's situation, and one they had to deal with Houston Nutt. You've always had to deal with this. Mike Anderson, Brett Bielema. There's always this question of dealing with the buyout. And obviously the university fought Brett Bielema. That was an ongoing. I think, is it still on? Did we ever get that settled with Bielema's ordeal? I don't know. I don't know if we did. I feel like that's still going on. But that's always going to be a thing. So eventually you have to face the facts. You have to deal with what's going on at the time. And if you fall 4-8, fans are going to pressure you to walk away. Fans are and you could say, well, Hunter Yurchek can't listen to the fans. I agree with that. But man, when it becomes so overwhelming, you start to see tickets, you know, you start to see empty seats. That's going to start to weigh on his mind. Let's not sit here and act like Twitter doesn't have some kind of impact. We know it can impact recruiting. And we damn sure know it can impact, look no further than what happened with Tennessee. Who was it? We bring this up from time to time. Was it Rich Rodriguez? They made up all these bullshit rumors that weren't true, that formulated on Twitter, that started on Twitter. So let's not sit here and act like social media has zero impact, because it certainly does. And if you're going to sit here and tell me that, well, Hog fans are the most fanatical and Hog Twitter has a reputation, then don't sit here and tell me that it doesn't have some kind of impact when you're talking about pressure on the university, because it certainly does. They are concerned about optics. We are in the situation as a society thanks to things like Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. So don't sit here and feed me some bullshit that it doesn't have some kind of impact on their actions within the university. It most certainly does. So when you fall 3-9, 4-8, you know, you're in a different world. We're having a different conversation. And when you start speaking with your dollar, which I think is the ultimate form of democracy, who cares about votes? It's about what you're doing with your dollar. That's what dictates what happens in multiple marketplaces. And the same thing could be said of college football or college athletics. When you start dictating with your dollar, you stop going to games, you stop buying merchandise, it's going to have a profound impact. If you go 0 for 1, 2, 3 of your next 4, if you go 0 for, so that means you're on a 5-game losing streak. What do you think the attendance is going to look like for Mississippi State come October 21st? And now you can kiss home field advantage like that's not going to be what it was when you had BYU in town. You see, you had a moment against BYU. Now, again, I want to be logical about this. I want to try and be as logical about this as humanly possible. Do I believe they're going to lose every game between here and October 21st? No, I think they can upset someone. I'm not blown away by what's happening with I think A&M's starting to kind of answer the question that we had coming into the year about how good or bad they are, what's going on the offensive side of the ball. They seem to be, they're not as bad as I thought they were. Ole Miss is slightly better than I thought they were. You got to play them in Oxford. Alabama, unfortunately, that game is in Tuscaloosa. You can't sit here and tell me that Alabama is it in some hot water on the offensive side of the ball? I mean, can Nick Saban turn it around with having great defense and just turning into a boring offense? Sure. You talk about a lot of change. Alabama made some changes. Not all by choice, obviously, but they certainly look like they have issues. But I'm not calling for an upset there. But I will tell you that it wouldn't completely shock me if Arkansas found a way. They're not. I'm going to tell you right now, I like their odds against Mississippi State. Then you've got at Florida. Tennessee just went to Florida and found out. I mean, they already knew, but they went to Florida and they found out. Auburn, I don't know where I'm at with Auburn. Then you got FIU. Then you look at Missouri. Missouri just beat Kansas State. I never bought Kansas State as a top 12, top 15 team. I thought they should have been ranked, but I didn't think they were that great of a team. But Missouri did beat them in dramatic fashion. That game doesn't look like what we thought it was coming into the year. So is it on the table that you only win 3 or 4 games? Yes, it is. It shouldn't be on the table, but it is. So then again, the public pressure and everything that Hunter Yurachek's going to have to deal with, and then that word has been used, it's been thrown around a lot lately, but the optics, your coach has stepped away from Twitter. He's been getting pretty mouthy with the media, and I get it. He doesn't like answering these questions, and at least he's not flying off the handle like Nick Saban, but it's definitely clear that there's a little bit of static between him and some of the line of questioning from the media. He was blocking fans on Twitter, apparently at an even higher rate since the beginning of this year. It certainly seems like the Buzzards may start heading to Northwest Arkansas to fly over the stadium if they can't get something fixed. And what's crazy is I think it's fixable. All of this pressure, all of this drama, this dark cloud, I feel like it's still within their grasp to fix. I don't think Kennedy is a deadbeat bum. I mean, my God, their run blocking a year ago was outstanding. How much of that was on the veer and shoot? Yeah, I agree. You still got to have guys up front doing their job, and you look at what he did the year before last. I don't think he's an outright bum. It certainly seems like there's been some regression on the offensive line, which shouldn't be the case year 4 under Sam Pittman, a former offensive line coach for 30 years. A guy that played on the line of scrimmage in college. He played interior defensive line, if I remember right. Not very far from here, but it is surprising that they're in the situation that they're in. This isn't year 2. It's not year 3. You're in year 4. So is the possibility of at least the discussion of a coaching change on the table? It is. There's no way in 4 years a coach goes 4-8, 3-9, and you talk about keeping him on for another year. But like I said, I think 2021 bought him 5 years. So I do believe it's a numbers game from this point on. I think he could win 5 and keep his job. Why? I mean, how often – I'll just say excuses. They'll make excuses. Well, they didn't have KJ went into the LSU game hurt and banged up and well, Dwight McLaughlin, Nudie, they had the turf toe, and they lost Christopher Pooh-Paul for a half, and that had some kind of long effect on him. I don't know. I mean, excuses, because if you won 5, then you were probably good enough to win 6, maybe 7. That's how he keeps his job. I think 5 is the threshold. Anything below that conversation gets real. That conversation gets real about a coaching change. That's where I think the state of the program is currently. I don't think it's a good thing. It is surprising. I'll be honest with you. I'm still shocked that we're having the discussion about the offensive line like we're having. It's crazy. I did not see them regressing this much. I like the Enos hire. I said in an edited video that I made several months ago, I'm bought in. I like what Enos did in 2015. I think it's a very similar set of circumstances. I think Brandon Allen was a very cerebral quarterback. Was already kind of brought into that system a little bit, and I think that offense elevated Brandon Allen. The numbers certainly show that. Some of the wins certainly show that. The analytics and then just the eye test showed that, Enos was a net positive in 2015 and to a lesser extent 2016. Kind of felt like he was going to recapture that. He's familiar with the SEC. He's got an experienced quarterback under a coach that he's worked with before. And you got Coach Kennedy back for a third year, and they've done terrific work in the tight end room and in the wide receiver room in terms of transfers. I loved what was going on the defensive side of the ball, and I still do, by the way. I felt like 9 wins was certainly within their reach. I thought 10 wins was the ceiling. I'm obviously way off that now. Listen, what I said a couple of weeks ago, or maybe it was last week, I stand by it. I don't think I'm going to make any more predictions preseason. I don't think I'm going to do it. The portal is it is the most difficult it's ever been to guess, and that's fine. I think it's good for college football. I think it's a net positive for college football when nobody knows what to expect. Georgia does not look like the clear-cut number one team in the country. I mean, there's discussions being had about Ohio State. You see what Deion Sanders has done at Colorado. By the way, I still think they end up like 8-4, 7-5, but Deion Sanders is fun. I love what's going on at Colorado. I'll say it again. I love what's going on, baby. Prime time. I'm loving it. So yeah. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe you guys disagreed. You think, listen, no matter what, he's back for another year, or maybe your standard's a little bit different than mine. Oh, we had some super chats. Hang on. Marcus Murdoch. Sorry, I was looking at another screen. Marcus Murdoch says, Houston Nutt or Bobby Petrino aren't walking through that door. Hire Coach Woodson from within the recruits. Love him, and the defense is turning around. I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I don't know about that one. I think they're going to want – I don't think that would satisfy the fans. And Sam Pittman was certainly – it was a dice roll. It was a hell of a dice roll, and it worked out. Like year one, we saw a better product. We saw a far superior product on the field in 2020 compared to the previous 3 years. I mean, and I said going into 2021, I said this is going to be an 8-win team. I don't remember what I put their ceiling at, but I said this is an 8-win team. And they did that, and I thought they were going to do it again last year, and they didn't. It's not all been bad, right? It's not. Sam did a hell of a job. He built a wonderful foundation. Mr. Pittman's feeling the pressure. I think that, again, I think that speaks to some of the optics, right? That's the belief out there. He's crumbling under the pressure. I don't know if that's the case, but that is certainly a conversation being had. Minus the stupid trick plays, Browse wasn't that bad. Who would have thought? Who would have thought this time a year ago anyone would be saying that, I think it's very clear that right now, at the moment, it seems like KJ is just struggling with this offense. I mean, that's the most obvious thing in the world to say. But despite the completion percentage, despite the touchdown to interception ratio, what does he have? An interception and a fumble lost. But despite all that, I think it's very clear that they have struggled to maintain consistency on the offensive side of the ball. And it starts with the quarterback. The receivers, I agree. I think the receivers are struggling to get open, struggling to create separation. But, Brett Robinson says, got to stop losing winnable games. God, I mean, boom. That's right there, right? That has been the bane of Arkansas football coaches, winning the games that were right there to be won, to be good. You have to win 85% of those close one-score games. Yeah, and they're not – it doesn't seem like they're doing that off the top of my head. All right. We'll move on. I know that's not – some people are not going to like what I just said, and that's perfectly fine. We can agree to disagree. Maybe you could change my mind. Please feel free to leave a comment if you're watching this after the fact. But I do think the state of the program is just exactly what I kind of laid out there. It's certainly taken a turn for the worse. I think it actually kind of started last year, only winning 6 games when damn sure should have won at least 7 or 8. But you can kind of forgive that because of what happened the season before and because of the turnaround and because what they once were the last year under Brett Bielema and what they were under Chad Morris. You could certainly kind of, well, wow, look at that. He rebuilt the foundation. I agree with that 110%, and that is valid. Now, what we got to do now is we got to move away from, well, yeah, but guys, things were so bad just 4 years ago. So why do you want to go, that's going to be the other side's argument. Like, guys, He turned us around from Chad Morris. Bro, that was 4 years ago. We got to talk about what you've done for me lately. Anybody that knows me knows that that's where my head's at. What have you done for me lately? Last year you underachieved. It certainly looks like this year you're going to do the same thing. And the question moving forward is, how many times can you unachieve before we start having the conversation of making a change? 4-8, it's game over, says Kopeski. And I think there might be some truth to that. 5-7, game over. Maybe. Like I said, at 5, they can twist that a lot easier than they can 4. And I do agree. I think 6-6, I agree. 6-6 has got to be the number to keep his job. Joshua Smothers says, I understand why everyone is freaking out, but BYU was the worst game we've played as a team in a long time. At least 5 drops. I didn't see 5 drops. I think I counted. To be fair, I did not rewatch that game start to finish, so you might be right, but I think I counted 3. 2 turnovers, penalties, and no blocking. We could still be all right. Yeah, and again, that's a very valid point. I don't disagree with that at all. And there is some overreacting, and I'm not saying you need to make that change now. I'm not saying that if the right guy knocked on the door right now, you got to fire Sam and move on. I'm not saying that. But I am saying we have to have that difficult conversation. And I've been here. How many coaching changes have I been doing making content for Razorback fans? How long? Like, what is this? Would this be including Mike Anderson? 1, 2, 3. This would be if we were having that conversation. This would be like the 4th coaching change. I've been here for a minute, and it has that similar feeling. It does. And again, it's not just BYU, guys. It's not just BYU. You go back and you look at the Kent State game. That's where I started to say, man, there's an awful lot of smoke here. You should have beat the living shit out of Kent State, and they didn't. They won by 22 points. Now, I think that was the spread, and that's great, whatever. But Kent State is currently, 1-2, and they're not projected to finish anywhere higher than like the bottom 4 of their conference. The Mid-American Conference standings right now. Yeah, they're at the bottom in their division under Ohio, Miami, Ohio, Akron, Bowling Green, and they're just ahead of Buffalo. They're tied for the second worst right now. I think it's the second worst schedule. Too early to say. Too early. But it goes back to that game. It goes back to last year when, again, you lost some games. You lost to Liberty. Okay? KJ hurt or not. And that also should tell you something. Okay? They didn't feel comfortable going with a backup quarterback 3 years in. Under Sam Pittman and Kendall Briles, you didn't have a backup quarterback. You got to understand, it's deeper than that. It's not just the surface level, well, KJ Jefferson was hurt. No, man, it's why weren't you more comfortable with your backup? Well, because they sucked. Why did they suck? Again, at that point in time, you're 3 years under Kendall Briles. You're 3 years in with Sam Pittman. Why was it QB2? Why was it that solved? And listen, the valid argument, and I made this comment last year, the valid argument is, well, they didn't have enough tape to really see that he wasn't the guy. But then I would counter that with, yeah, but they knew something was up because they tried to move him to wide receiver. They tried to move him to wide receiver, so they knew something was up at quarterback at the QB2 spot. So, again, it's not just BYU. It's like this bodywork of weird decisions, of things that just don't make sense, of guys not being ready, the secondary being so bad last year, maybe the worst secondary in Arkansas's history, and this has happened under Sam Pittman's watch. Again, I'm not on the fire Sam Pittman bandwagon. I'm just simply laying out the blueprints. Okay. But I hear you, and I agree. I think there is some overreacting to just the BYU game. I agree with that. And then here comes the other argument. What coach you going to get? Well, you don't know. You have to let the season play out, right? You don't fire. Now Chad Morris kind of made sense when you terminated Chad. I don't see Sam getting that kind of treatment. But the reasoning then was, well, we got to hurry up and make a hire, right? But let the season play out unless things get really, really bad. And then you're kind of, you're up against it. Who you going to get? I hate that argument. It's just not a good argument. You don't know. We don't know who's going to be available. On either side of the aisle, whether you're for or against, we don't know who's available. So let's let the year play out. No, Deion is not going to be available. Deion's market value has skyrocketed. Okay, now he's up in the upper echelon in terms of salary, in terms of the kind of coach you want to get. He's up there now. I mean, there's not very many programs that would turn him down. So now his market value has changed. What it was before Colorado, that's a different argument. What he is so far, and listen, Deion, first year at Colorado could collapse too. So then his market value is going to drop. That's why I say let it play out. Don't hit me with the who you going to get. Okay, that's a goofy argument because we don't know. Who the hell thought we were going to get Sam? And then in a bat, I'm not saying that was a net positive, but who the hell thought you'd get Sam and then turn around and have the kind of, the year 2 turnaround that you had with him? Who saw that coming, right? So we don't know. Let it play out. But if the mentality is who you going to get, then you're never going to make an upgrade at coach. The mentality is you got to get someone in here to turn the thing around, lay a foundation, which I think Sam did. Let's see what he does with it the rest of the year, and then we can have that conversation at the end of the year, and we'll see what the market value is for all these coaches, what the U of A can afford and not afford to do. I don't want another Lane Kiffin scenario. And I'm not saying there's no validity to that because Arkansas, what would you grade Arkansas if you were a head coach looking to go somewhere? Would you grade Arkansas out as a highly desirable job? Probably not. But at the same time, you can't use that argument to say that you should never make a coaching change because it's absurd. Okay. Went way further into that. We didn't even I might as well retitle this video and just take away Arkansas versus LSU. Yeah, spread versus Kent State was 38, bro. Okay, whatever. It was bad. Thank you, Stephen Brimley. I think we've acknowledged it was they underachieved. Hell, Lane is about to beat Bama. I've got Ole Miss winning this weekend. All right, we are. I'm gonna have to timestamp this because I really thought we'd get to LSU like 15 minutes ago, but let's dive into this. Listen, I mean, I think I've kind of already stated a little bit of what's going on. You got to get into this game. You've got to consider the fact that it is a night game in Baton Rouge. It is hard to win there. It's not to say that they can't win there. It's not to say that, that it's impossible. Here's what Arkansas is up against. Let's look at some of these numbers. LSU's defensive rank is not what we thought it would be, even this early in the year. Their total defense, they're giving up almost 340 yards a game, which ranks them at near the bottom of the SEC. Their rushing defense is giving up 131 yards a game. That's 12th in the SEC. Passing defense, they're giving up almost 208 a game. That's, kind of towards the back of the middle. They're not really killing it in the sacks in the TFL department, and their scoring defense is 23 points a game, which is still somehow pretty low, but which in this day and age you'd think 23 points a game would actually be okay, considering it feels like everybody scores at least 30 points a week. Arkansas's offense, on the other hand, there are some highlights here. Like their scoring offense is towards the front of the middle of the pack, right? They're sixth in the SEC in total scoring at 30, just north of 38 points a game. Their total offense, however, is down. It's 12th in the SEC. I would have thought even lower than that, to be honest. I would have thought 13, 14. Total offense is at 370 a game. I think the run game is turning itself around. I do think that we certainly saw Arkansas win some battles up front of the line of scrimmage. I'm going to tell you, I don't think it's a pure talent issue. It's just like those guys are out of sync. Do certain individuals get beat time to time, especially Tykees Crawford and Kutas certainly has had his hands full a little bit at right tackle. Yeah, it happens. Some guys get beat. We know there's still questions about Devin Manuel and what's going on at left tackle, but the run offense did seem to kind of establish itself last week. We'll see if they can do that again. Because, again, LSU's rush defense is not good. They're not super active in the backfield. They don't appear to be they can be aggressive at times, But it feels like this is maybe if the offense can continue on the right track, they got the right step in the right direction on the up front of the offensive line, at least from a run blocking point of view. Maybe this is where they can win a couple of battles and start to find some positives mid-drive, right? Well, we could build off this. Now we're going to actually try and utilize play action. Now we're going to try and utilize the RPO. Now it can be more effective because maybe, just maybe, we can establish some things up front. I would guess that LSU is locked in on the idea that Arkansas is not a very good passing football team, so they're probably going to sell out to try and slow down the run. That's going to be a fascinating battle to see how that unfolds. Arkansas is one of the worst. This is one of the worst passing offenses. It's been very ineffective, and again, I don't know if it's just KJ's out of sync with his receivers. The offensive line hasn't done him any favors. Sam complained a little bit about tight ends not really blocking just a couple of weeks ago. Maybe that's kind of straightened out a little bit. They've done a really good job in the red zone. You want to talk about positives? They're at almost 92% in the red zone. That is something that I think Dan Enos brought over with him. Right now, that's third best. That's third best in the SEC. LSU on defense has kind of not been super hot in the red zone. Arkansas's only given away, I think, 2 turnovers so far this year, so their turnover ratio is still in really good shape. Defensively, the challenge is obviously going to be around the quarterback, Jaden Daniels. QB spotlight, Stephen Hamner. It was really, he wasn't the only voice, but he was certainly one of the ones that I tune into. It was all about Jaden Daniels. Before the preseason, the accolades started rolling in. I mean, I'm talking last year, he's having the conversation. Jaden Daniels will be the best quarterback next year, at least one of the top 3 quarterbacks next year in the SEC. And so far, he's off to a fantastic start. He's very difficult to contain. He's very shifty. They can throw it deep. They're very active on deep attempts. He's completing right now almost right at about 74% of his passes, just under 1,000 yards passing. He has over 1,000 yards of total offense with 10 total touchdowns, just 1 interception. He has been sacked 7 times through 3 games, but his rating is at 185.7 according to ESPN. He is their leading rusher by a yard. Logan Diggs, I believe, is healthy, ready to go. Now, I swear I saw our Discord having a conversation about their running backs not being any good, and I'm like, wait, Diggs is still there, right? He's averaging 6.5 yards a carry. Josh Williams, I know a couple of these guys are dealing with some injury issues. I don't know the extent, but Josh Williams is at 7.4 off of 14 carries. Caleb Jackson is averaging over 5 yards a carry, and he's got 2 touchdowns on the year. They have 10 rushing touchdowns. Malik Neighbors is obviously the guy that comes off, when you talk about the offense. Malik Neighbors, projected first-round prospect. Guy's already got 24 grabs, almost 400 yards receiving, and 3 touchdowns. He passes the eye test big time. The speed that LSU has on offense, I don't know. It's hard to gauge really how good LSU is on offense. But when you watch what they did to Mississippi State, of course, who's not very good, but then you go back to Florida State, their offense, just watching what I've seen, they have so much speed. And you combine that with Jaden Daniels at quarterback, containing him is going to be an issue. Again, he's run the ball 35 times. He's averaging close to 5 yards a carry. He's got a couple of rushing touchdowns, 160 yards. Again, over 1,000 total yards of offense just through 3 games. That's coming in shy of 400 yards total offense a game, including 2 Power 5 opponents. One of them pretty good, maybe really good, and one of them really bad. When you break down their drives this year on offense, LSU against Florida State, this is where they struggled. They scored on 4 of their 11 drives, but they still had 459 yards of total offense while giving up almost 500 total yards of offense. They threw for 346. Where Daniels was 22 of 37. He threw a pick in that game. They only ran the ball for 113 yards, and they were only penalized twice. So this wasn't like a heavy penalty game for LSU. They just simply, they struggled. Good Lord. Florida State had 7 penalties for 64 yards. So more than half the field and 34 more yards in penalties, and Florida State still bent LSU over and gave them a whooping. But again, LSU scored on just 4 of their 11 drives, but then you fast forward to Grambling, they scored 10 out of 11 drives. That's obviously 90% odds of them scoring on any given drive. The takeaway from this game is that they still gave up over 160 yards rushing to Grambling, but they had 302 yards on the ground, over 600 total yards of offense. And then Mississippi State, they scored on 7 of 11 drives. Jaquavius Marks for Mississippi State carried the ball 8 times for 75 yards. So, again, it's like they have an issue up front on the line of scrimmage. He did have a 52-yard run from the LOS. Look at Arkansas. It's wildly inconsistent. Western Carolina, they score on 7 of 12 drives. Kent State, they score 3 of 9 drives. And BYU, the offense, scored 4 of 15 drives. Arkansas's odds of scoring per drive is not high at all. It's very problematic. This is very how many points do they have? Is it 21 points that don't belong to the offense, right? 2 defensive touchdowns and a Centennia punt return for a touchdown. So 21 of their total points aren't even from the offense. So that hits their points per game just a little bit. 4 out of 15 drives. Now, BYU, I do think, is the best team they've played so far. Now, obviously, that's going to be LSU. But that is abysmal. That is horrible. I don't care who you're playing. 4 of 15 is not – you're not going to win a lot of games unless your defense is just completely on fire and able to stop the opponent, which they didn't. They didn't completely stop them. They did hold them under 300 yards. Isn't it crazy? You can have 424 yards of total offense, hold the opponent under 300 yards, and yet still give up the kind of points they gave up, and find a way to lose this game in front of 70,000 plus of your screaming fans. They're just wildly inconsistent on offense. So I am going to take LSU to cover the spread. I do think this is probably a 3 touchdown win for LSU. I do acknowledge that the last 3 years under Sam, they've been close games. And maybe that's going to be the case. I'd feel a lot better if this were 11 a.m. kickoff or even a noon kickoff for that matter. But it's not. It's going to be in front of those screaming fans. It's probably going to be as close to a sellout as well. It's going to be a very, very hyped up game for their fans. I mean, it's Arkansas. They know these games have been tight. This is it, man. And I do like LSU to cover. I am taking LSU. I've changed my mind. I didn't at first. I had Arkansas covering. I thought this would be about a 10 or 13 point win for LSU. But, man, the more video I watch, the more numbers I look at, the more I just think I really don't know what the hell Arkansas is trying to do on offense. They're wildly consistent drive to drive. One thing they have done is they've punted the shit out of the football. I do like Arkansas defensively here to give LSU some worry, at least for a little bit of this game. I do think they are capable of shaking LSU a little bit on offense. But because they're at home, it's going to be a 100,000 plus. I just don't like Arkansas's odds to cover. I just don't. We beat LSU last time. We played there at night. This is different. I think this is a pretty good team. Again, I think they're a top 15, top 20 team. I hope I'm wrong. I would love to see the offense pull their head out of their asses. I would love to see the defense. And it's not out of the realm of possibility, especially for the defense, to really get inside Daniel's head. You got to spy him. You got to contain the outside. Don't let this guy shake loose. He can throw the ball out of the pocket, in the pocket. He can make all the throws. They love to stretch the field. Arkansas's not been challenged in this way at all this year. This is going to be the best quarterback, the best offense they've played. Defensively, you feel good about some matchups here. Their secondary has not lit the world on fire. They don't look like a typical LSU defense. So I do think maybe Arkansas can make this a game. It's just going to be about how LSU responds and what happens in the second half. And so far, based on what I've seen, Arkansas has not done a very good job of countering. Arkansas has not done a very good job of kicking the tires and lighting the fires. It's just not happened. Week 1 was great, but that was against Western Carolina. Since they've stepped up week to week in competition, they've looked worse and worse. Big deal for Missouri. I don't know what y'all are talking about. Tristan says, I also think LSU will cover plus some. Yeah, I think it's probably going to be 3 scores, something like, it'll probably be 20 or 21. That's probably where I'd put it. My boy Ty, what's up, dollar sign? What's up, Tristan? North Dakota State coach, they go undefeated almost every year. Yeah. Well, and listen, do I have high confidence that Arkansas can't cover or that LSU covers? I don't know, a scale of 1 to 10, maybe I'm a 5. Like, because here's the thing. If Arkansas recovers, if BYU was really that shock game for the Hogs, if that was the game that woke them up, then all of a sudden the possibilities of them reaching their ceiling could go up tremendously. Maybe that was their wake-up moment. Maybe it wasn't Kent State. Maybe it took losing to BYU. And I want to believe that happened. The problem is we kind of saw how last year unfolded. You lost 3 games you shouldn't have lost. A&M, Missouri, and Liberty. I didn't see the kind of rebound from Arkansas. And so that's sometimes I think history it oftentimes repeats itself. But I want to believe that game that BYU is just that wake up call, that all of a sudden the staff and the players are all on the same page. They come out pissed off, they're disrespected, they're tired of the media. They're tired of some fat guy on YouTube blabbering on about how they're not going to respond and how he's not like the cohesiveness from the offensive line and so on and so forth. Receivers aren't getting open downfield. They're tired of that. They're tired of the tough questions from Trey Biddy and Hutch and Tom Murphy. They want to shut everybody up. If they come out with that mentality, if they worked on all the issues, if they were able to address the issues, which I'm sure they did, but then address them in practice, work on what needs to be done, find that cohesiveness on the offensive line, the receivers finally, and here's an opportunity. I think the receivers have a chance here. Someone has an opportunity to break out. Maybe it's the 4-star tight end out of Bixby, Oklahoma. Maybe it's his chance here to really just have a moment. I think he's due for a huge game this year. He's a potential freshman All-American. Maybe you feed him. I don't know. Maybe you feed A.J. Green when he's averaging 14 yards a damn carry. Obviously, that wasn't the case, but he was on fire. Maybe you feed those guys, and maybe they've got that in their heads and in their minds going into this. We got to feed our stars. We got to find a way on offense, find that cohesiveness, and feed the monsters. Because otherwise, what the hell are you doing? Your identity is lost on offense. I don't know what they're trying to do. I mean, I know they want to run the ball, but as soon as they're challenged, this offense just falls apart. The passing game has not been as effective, anywhere near as effective as a lot of us thought it would be. This is an opportunity. When you talk about what LSU has provided for you on film, this is an opportunity for your offense to have its moment. I'm just not sold that it's going to happen yet. Sell it to me on Saturday. That'd be a crazy post-game show if you guys find a way to win this one. This is a good LSU team. This is a legit top 10, top 15 LSU team. I don't think I could be wrong. Who knows the state of the SEC? It certainly seems like it's down, so maybe LSU does have a shot at the playoffs. Maybe they are a playoff caliber team. I don't know, but I'm not blown away by what they're doing on defense. I'm not blown away by what's happening in their secondary. They certainly seem to struggle. But against Arkansas, is it going to be the case that they're just going to stack the box and that's going to be it? They're just going to stack the box and game over? Like, is that how this offense is going to crumble? Are they going to get 15 penalties? You're about to go play in the most hostile environment that college football has to offer. You just came off a home game in front of your own crowd with 14 flags for 125 yards. Can you minimize the mistakes on both sides of the ball? I don't know. And I don't like to be the doom and gloom guy. I just think that, again, like I said 2 weeks ago, sometimes where there's smoke, there's fire. And there certainly seems like to be some pretty thick smoke around what's happening on the offense. The defense hopefully can keep you in this game. This is about to be the most speed they've seen. This is a speedy offense. It's really too bad for LSU that their defense, I'm just unimpressed with their defense. There's just nothing about what they're doing on the defensive side of the ball. I know they've got some playmakers over there. There was a very interesting argument yesterday about, Mekhi Wingo, which I fully believe Mekhi Wingo is a legit player. I think Wingo is going to be great. But the conversation revolved around Harold Perkins, who former 5-star, like a top 10 player in the country coming out of high school. You know what he did to you a year ago. I mean, it's so obvious that Perkins is someone they're concerned about that Sam Pittman had to have one of his linebackers emulate what he does. I forgot who he said that was. I don't have the transcript. I forgot what he said. I forgot what player it was. I think it was one of the freshman linebackers, but they had to try and emulate because they're so concerned about Perkins. They're both going to be problems. Wingo from that interior spot is going to be an issue. They have a couple of guys that have stood out a little bit on defense. Perkins has not had the kind of year that he had his freshman year, but we know what he did last year. I think they're going to try to do their best to scheme away from Perkins. I think there is a way. If Enos is any kind of a coordinator, you could certainly scheme away, which they failed to do last year against him as a freshman. Remember that. They failed to do that last year. I think Enos should be aware of what Perkins does. He's not had that kind of glow-up moment game yet, and maybe this could be it for him. He has a pretty good, last year certainly set a pretty high standard for him for what he should do against Arkansas. Harold Perkins could be a problem. He's only got a sack this year, 10 tackles. He grades out as their second highest pass rusher, according to Pro Football Focus. Perkins is someone they're going to have to circle. And Wingo, we'll see. The offensive line, they're going to have their hands full. He's not the only guy. Omar Spates is another player. I mean, you could go on and on. They've got potentially, I think last I saw, they have 3 potential first-round draft picks. Wingo, I think, was on the outside looking in, according to who was that? ProFootballNetwork.com has him as the 32nd overall pick. Omar Spates they have as the last pick in the first round. Neighbors is a right now a top 10, top 15 pick from ProFootballNetwork.com. I've used them, a little bit over the years. They're a pretty decent site when it comes to draft talk. So they have the talent. It's LSU. This is nothing new. But I will say again, their total defense right now is 60th in the country. Now they have played again 2 Power 5 teams, but they've also played they played a pretty weak opponent in week 2, and their total defense got a little bit of a jump, but still they're at 338 giving up a game, 60th in the country. I mean, that's behind Fresno State, Temple, Wake Forest, Louisiana, Ball State. I mean, they're just ahead of UTSA. So their defense has not lit the world on fire. And again, Ole Miss, unsurprisingly, is floating around the high 60s. They're like 66th in total defense. But maybe that's just the state of the SEC now. Maybe they're just all about offense outside of Alabama and Georgia. So, yeah. We didn't do a poll. I had a poll. I had an idea for a poll, but I just forgot to do it. Hopefully KJ gets sick of getting hit and rushes for 200 yards. We all know if there's anybody who could put a team on his back and find a way to make it close or win, it's certainly KJ, but he's also someone who could fumble a ball in the opening quarter and let it affect him the entire game until the final drive. Just a reminder, we're giving Broden and Tislaw screen passes and not the fastest wide receiver on the team. Broden's pretty fast. Broden is actually pretty fast, but Centennial needs to get the ball in his hands more. I could not agree more. I don't know why. Sam said something that was so surprising to me. I was there. I only missed 2 days of fall camp. And up until till the motor blew out in my car, I'd been to every single practice. And Sam said that he needs to be more consistent at catching balls in practice. I don't know what the other media guys are saying that are there. I never saw Centennial struggle catching the ball. If anything, he was the most consistent through fall camp at catching balls. Clearly the fastest player. Could find ways of getting open, especially when they'd run him at the slot. It looked to me like he could run every route, whether it's slant, rubs, digs, go, and fades. He could do it all. Now, again, we only get 30 minutes of practice, so there is the possibility of things happening when the media is not there, sure. But he certainly looked pretty good as a receiver when I watched him. When Sam said that, I thought, okay, well, then when we're not there, then I guess he must be struggling. I don't know. I thought he was the most consistent receiver. Steven says we have an NCAA QB1 and smart people want to bench him. NCAA QB1? I mean, KJ's, he's coming into the year, I think he was second team all SEC. Yeah, I don't think benching KJ is the answer. I think you got to figure it out with your starter. Criswell is not going to save you. I'm not. I mean, he could come in and have a great moment. There's no film on this guy. There's no film on Criswell. You have that slight advantage, assuming the moment isn't too big for him. He has that advantage, but we don't know what we're getting out of Criswell yet. Looked good in the end of spring camp and all of fall camp. He did look good. He did. It's one thing to do that, and I know he's 2 for 2 on the year so far. It's one thing to do that, and then to go do it in Baton Rouge. I mean, that's you're asking. That's a whole different scenario. KJ, you've got to get it figured out with KJ. Now, obviously, God forbid anything happens to KJ. I do feel better about QB2 than I did a year ago, but that's based on just what I've seen through camp. That doesn't always happen on the field. I'm highlighting this one. Oh, that's getting pinned right there, brother. Oh, that's pinned. Isaiah gets 10 targets or I'm not watching it. I love that, man. Yeah, he's got to get involved more. Hey, my God, you see his speed on punt return. I know that's not everything, but I'm so glad you guys got to see that. I've been talking all spring and fall camp. This dude has legit speed. He's so fast. He's got to be more involved, and you guys got to see that on punt return. He is still just a redshirt freshman. It's not unheard of that a redshirt freshman still has to kind of fight his way to get onto the field. That's not unheard of. But based on what we've seen so far, why not go ahead and play him a little bit more? I'm not the only one saying that receivers aren't getting opened. Okay? It's certainly something that other people have caught on to. Why not try to get him involved a little bit more? Maybe target him 4 or 5 or 6 times. I don't know. Grayson says, we've had some poor losses in recent memory, but how come this BYU loss has really deflated me? Because you lost at home in front of 74,000 people, and you were favored by, 10.5 or whatever? I mean, yeah, it is. That, for some reason, I think that loss hits as hard as maybe more than the Liberty loss, and yet BYU's a bigger, better program than Liberty, right? I mean, Drew W., if Sam Pittman let him play more and he does well, he'll put him on the bench just like he did A.J. Green and the tight end. Personnel usage has been strange. Going back to last year, again, maybe I'm wrong, but it felt like Rocket was very uninvolved in most third quarter action. Arkansas could have 3 or 4 drives with, maybe 20 or so total plays, and if Rocket was on the field, he wasn't getting the ball. It's very strange. The usage of personnel has been bizarre the last couple of years, and I don't understand it. And now that's with 2 different coordinators. Why you're not feeding A.J. Green more, I don't know. I would even say, why not? I mean, Dominic Johnson had one really good run out of 2 runs, putting his average up to 7 a carry or whatever. And I know that wasn't always the case, but at least in this last game, he certainly looked like, okay, we're starting to see the old Dom John. We're starting to see Dominic Johnson. We're starting to see what we thought we were going to get, obviously, before he got hurt. That's outside of his control. And he gets the ball twice. A.J. Green, what was it? Was it 9 carries or whatever? I mean, He absolutely should have been in the 15+, easily in the 15+ category in carries. I don't know what they're doing. And this goes back, and I've said it 100 times. You're going to hear me say it more. I don't know what the hell they're doing with personnel, and I don't know what they're doing on offense. Eric D28 says if Centennial was at A&M, Petrino would have him looking like a second coming of Christian Kirk or Joe Adams. Arkansas is notorious for underutilizing their elite talent. Yeah. It's got to get fixed. This whole scenario on offense, and the good news is we have seen Arkansas in the past start off slow and then pick it up and figure it out. Now that might have been some different coaching. That was a different era, all that, but it's not out of the realm of possibilities that they don't figure it out, fix what needs to be fixed, and at least get a better product on the field. But they're about to hit those numbers, man. And I don't mean that in a good way. I mean, they're up against it. This is BYU was supposed to be your last of the winnable games, and then you approach the difficult games. Well, you lost that one. And again, you got to go to Baton Rouge. You got to go to Arlington, in a place that, Arkansas's won once in the last decade at against A&M. You got to go to Oxford, or you got to go to Ole Miss, Tuscaloosa, and then you're at home against a team you should. Right now, it's easy to say you should beat Mississippi State, but hell, if you're riding a losing streak, who knows what conversation we're having October 20th, the Friday before. Then you got to go to Gainesville. 4-8, 3-9 is on the table currently. I want to make this perfectly clear. I'm not stating that that's going to happen, but it's at least pulled up to the table, right? We've all had those uncomfortable Thanksgiving dinners, or that cousin or crazy-ass cat aunt of yours, or cousin, whatever, distant relative pulls up. You're uncomfortable around them. You don't want to talk to them. You don't want to talk about them, but by God, they're at the table. That is at the table. Your cat mom, your aunt, the crazy cat woman is what I'm trying to say, is at the table. Or the annoying uncle, who always wants to bring up politics at the table. That's what's happening right now. They weren't supposed to be here yet. They weren't supposed to pull up yet until maybe you're coming back home to play Mississippi State. This conversation wasn't supposed to be happening yet, and here we are. So let's hope, again, that the BYU, it's a little bit of an overreaction. Maybe BYU tears the Big 12 a new rear end. That's on the table for them, by the way. It's on the table for them to win in the Big 12. If they can come into SEC country, if they can come into Fayetteville and beat whatever Arkansas is, if they can beat them, it's on the table for them to at least do pretty damn good in the Big 12. Or Arkansas is just that bad. Or they just caught Arkansas on a bad day, or for them a good day. But yeah, I am, again, I'm a little bit surprised we're having this conversation this soon. Yeah. I'm hoping my next poll that we do on the community page, I'm hoping it's easier to pick the positives. You guys know I always try to do those Sunday polls. What's the biggest positive? And you guys have done those. I mean, look for those every Sunday. It's typically sometime Sunday I get those posted. Hopefully they're a little bit in a good way. I hope they're harder to pick from, because there's so many, I should say. That's the proper way of saying it. LSU, I'll say it again, they're suspect on defense, but their offense it's going to be a lot. And I am taking LSU to cover, so we'll see. Night game is really hurting us in Baton Rouge. Yeah, that just makes things that much more difficult, right? Musselman has the right, quote unquote, figure it out. Pitt doesn't. What's the spread? 17.5. And again, if this were a day game, I might pick Arkansas to cover. I mean, I think that Baton Rouge makes all the difference at night. I mean, it just does. And listen, I know what Sam has done. I know Arkansas has one there. I get that. Arkansas went there in 2021, and they won in overtime, 16-13. So, I mean, maybe we get that kind of game. It's not impossible. It's just improbable. I mean, that same year, man, golly, 2021, you manhandle Texas. You break the streak against A&M. You do lose to Ole Miss, but it was a 1-point loss. Again, going back to what we said earlier, you lose to Auburn you lose 38-23. And then you manhandle, UAPB, which you're supposed to do, but then they beat Mississippi State in a close game. You beat LSU in a close game. You go on the road, you lose by 42-35 to Bama. You beat Mizzou. You win. You beat Penn State in the Outback Bowl, a January 1st bowl game. That feels like 4 years ago now. Isn't that weird how that happens? Got to get it turned around. That's all I'm going to say. Anymore. That's all I'm going to say. You got to get it turned around. Stephen McFall says we're going to get the crap beat out of us the next 6 games. Make no mistake about it. If that happens, we're going to be transitioning to basketball really quick. I am so excited for basketball, you guys. Oh, my gosh. I'm so excited. Look, last year they underachieved, and they still made the Sweet 16. They're going to get Brazil back. Oh, I'm so excited. So excited for basketball. Baseball. We had true leaders on that 21 team. Makes a difference. You're not wrong. They did. You're not wrong at all. You think UConn repeats? Boy, I don't know. This is going to be a fascinating year. I've seen where some people don't even have Arkansas ranked, and I'm just – look, they're basing that really off of, how they underachieved last regular season, so they don't want to get burned. They're going to get burned. I think Arkansas is going to be pretty good. It might be a bumpy ride. I'll just tell you right now, I think they're built to do some damage in March. I'm so excited. Regular season's probably going to be a bumpy ride. I mean, the SEC, the quality of coaches, it's just skyrocketed. I mean, it's unbelievable. Is it the Big 12? No, but the quality of coaches is just fantastic. I mean, it really is. It's good for the league. The SEC is not a very good basketball conference. Last year, really the last I don't know how long. If it's not Kentucky, maybe it's whoever. It needs to be Arkansas. Needs to be Arkansas if it's not Kentucky going far. Damn sure shouldn't be Alabama. I'll tell you that. But it would be good for the league if the teams that you think should do well in March, it's good for the league when they actually do well in March. That includes Tennessee, another team we're always like, well, or Bruce Pearl and Auburn, right? I'm just excited. I'm so excited for basketball, you guys. Football, and I hate to say this, like obviously that's my first favorite sports, football. It's still my favorite sport. It just sucks that we're having to have this conversation about coaching, the state of the program and what the year could look like. It sucks we're having this conversation. What I'm hoping is come Saturday night, and it's going to be a late one, maybe we're having maybe that script is switched. And again, I said at the beginning of the show, and I'll say it again. I think this team is good enough in terms of talent to correct the mistakes that have happened so far. BYU, you beat yourselves, okay? Did BYU have a hand in your loss? Yes. Arkansas got in their own way. You bring the penalties down. Hell, you could knock off 3 flags. You either take that game into overtime or you just win it. Just limit those kind of mistakes. Cut them down. Sam said cut them in half, we win. I don't think you have to cut them in half. What's sad is if you cut them in half, you're still at 7 penalties. And probably still hovering around like 65, 70 yards in penalties. But he's not wrong. I do think Arkansas, I certainly thought going into that game they're better than BYU. I think their potential. Now, they don't have the schedule Arkansas has, so let's not get it twisted. BYU, I mean, the Big 12, God, don't even get me, I don't want to go down that. The Big 12's it's garbage. Outside of Oklahoma and Texas, it's just flaming hot garbage. Like if BYU doesn't finish 9-3, then that's going to be an even more disappointing loss for Arkansas. But I do believe it is within their capacity to fix what needs to be fixed and still have what we would consider at this moment in time a good season. Do I think they can climb back up to 9 again? That's a tall order at the moment. But again, hopefully LSU, we flip the script. Good Lord, I can't land the plane. Hopefully they straighten out all these issues and we're having an entirely different conversation Saturday night. Like, oh shit, there it is. There's the team I thought we were going to get this year. Again, it's within their capacity to do it, and that could even be in a loss. They lost by a field goal. If you go into Baton Rouge at night based on what just happened and you're able to make that into a game, that's a script flipper. Absolutely it is. You got to do more than cover the spread. Covering the spread's a start, but it needs to be a single-digit loss if that's going to be the case. Or you do something extraordinary and you find a way to win the game. That would be incredible. Enos is no stranger to LSU. Sam Pittman's no stranger to LSU. KJ, like the list goes on. Some guys on that offensive line, the running backs. Rocket, and I forgot to mention Rocket. I didn't even note it because I don't know where they're at. Apparently he's ahead of schedule, but he's still not. I don't know. I guess it might be a game time decision. I don't know. Maybe some of you guys can answer that better than I can, but I don't know what's going on with Rocket. I mean, I know what's going on with him. I know he's got some buildup on the knee, and they're waiting on, they're just kind of taking that day to day. The good news is they play that game at night, so it's not like an early morning. So like tonight, if there's still some slight concern that he wouldn't play, now that's pushed to tomorrow morning. Okay, what's he looking like tomorrow morning? I would say if Rocket were playing, I'd feel a hell of a lot better. Obviously, the spread would be impacted, but I still think they would probably be able to cover the spread. I think Rocket, if the offensive line, if they truly are headed in the direction of improvement, and we saw what they did last week against a very salty BYU front six, front seven, they won some battles, man. I mean, they absolutely did. I could only imagine whatever AJ was capable of doing last week, imagine what Rocket could have done last week. I look at LSU the same way. But you don't want to rush him back. If there's any question marks at all, you don't want to risk further injury. Would Arkansas go 9-3 in the Big 12? I don't know. Well, I mean, yeah. I don't know. They're not obviously they're 0-1 versus the Big 12 this year. But how good is BYU? It's disappointing that as Hog fans we count close losses versus other programs as good. I don't disagree. I mean, I get it. Oh, no. We got a Disney reference. Modern Razorback football reminds me of Disney's Star Wars. Oh, my God. That's not something I ever thought I would read. Let me finish. You want to love it, but can't. Oh, man. You want to love it, but can't. But you can't leave it even though you hate it. It's like watching a zombie. It's like watching a zombie of my childhood hero. Oh, man. I never thought I would read a Disney comparison to Razorback athletics. That is one for the books right there. Yeah. That was good. We need to get a track pod going. We dominate that shit. That's true. Yeah. That you're not wrong. or just cover more baseball. Even though I know they were still thirsting for a win in Omaha, a big win in Omaha, winning it all. I don't think our conference matters much at this point. We can't figure out our own game yet. Right? Yeah. No, I hear you. On to basketball. I see. I'm not there yet. I'm not on to basketball yet. What I said was if they don't get this corrected over the next 3 weeks, if we don't see a better product on the field, a higher level of play, yeah, we're going to start moving on to basketball. Absolutely. I have to. As a content creator, as someone who follows the analytics, I won't have a choice but start talking basketball because I've said it before and I stand by it. And I think this is probably true for a lot of fan bases, but Arkansas fans are fickle. I mean, they just are, and I think they're just tired of being mediocre. And I get that. That's perfectly reasonable. It's clear we'll win a natty in basketball or baseball before football. It is. You're not wrong, Pigpen, but I think that's probably the case for a lot of teams. You know, even those teams that are kind of in that top 10 conversation. It's just football. It's just so. You know, you've got your few teams. You know, Ohio State, Clemson, Alabama, Georgia, off and on, Florida. Auburn's kind of on the outside looking in. Did I say Clemson? Maybe USC, although I don't know what to make of what's going on there. You know, but there's just a handful of teams that are like, yeah, no, we're going to make the playoffs, right? Now, this is going to be different when the playoffs expand, and that I'm ready for that. That's going to be fun. So, a decade of poor hog football. Yeah. Let's land this plane. I already said it. LSU. I've got LSU to cover, so I think LSU wins probably. I don't know, by 20. I don't know if I even want to give a score. I will. Let's just say I'll give my official score in Discord in the prediction section. So I do probably believe that LSU will win this thing by somewhere above the 17 and a half. So I think it'll be, you know, probably 20 or 21. If it gets too out of hand, let's hope that it doesn't. I might do another call-in show. I might do another call-in regardless on Saturday night. That was a lot of fun. So how do you feel about yeah, let me cross that bridge when I get to it. I'm trying to wrap up this show, Hog, but I'll address that later. We could probably talk about that if I get an opportunity tomorrow on Discord, if you're in our Discord. Yeah. Arkansas has got a. I mean, it's full steam ahead at this point, right? I mean, it's. I mean, we said it going into BYU. Sam said it. We're not holding back anymore, and you still lost. So, minimize the mistakes vastly, right? No more of this. Like, it needs to be anything above 5 or 6 needs to be unacceptable. Let's get Centennial more involved. Let's feed the monsters, man. I don't know why, like, we're saying this. That's such a given. If you do these things, minimize mistakes, you find the offensive line is all on the same page. The receivers can take advantage of what I believe to be a somewhat weakened LSU secondary. Not very impressed with the back end of their defense. Now, if they stack the box, it's going to be a problem. If they slow down your run, you had better figure it out in the passing game. Again, that's a no-brainer. If they could do this, if Arkansas gets punched in the mouth and they could fight back, it'll make you feel a hell of a lot better. If you could pop LSU in the mouth, keep that crowd out of this game, you have a shot of doing the unthinkable. At the moment, it seems like the unthinkable. You could change the narrative entirely in this one single game. I don't think LSU is the second best team in the SEC, but they're certainly somewhere in the top 5 in the SEC. I certainly believe they're a top 10, top 15 team in the country. So if you can go on the road, punch them in the mouth, find a way to win this game, that narrative is going to switch in a heartbeat. That post-game show is going to be, okay, there we go. That's what I'm talking about. Let's do that again. Then we're talking about, okay, what are our chances realistically over A&M, Bama, or Ole Miss, Bama, so on and so forth, going on the road in Gainesville? What are our odds? All of a sudden, the narrative, the script it's flipped. Now we're having a real conversation about the positives and not so much the negatives and the coaching change. They have it within their personnel to do these things. No more excuses. Go get it done. All I'm saying is cover the damn spread. Try to keep it within single digits. And I probably still, I think the narrative will switch a little bit, certainly, if you can go down there and make this a ball game. But they got to do it. They got to execute. And it's not all on the coaching staff. Players have got to execute. They got to stay out of flag trouble. But the staff, it's their job to have these guys ready. I said this 1,000 times year 2 with Chad Morris. And I'm saying it here now. And again, I'm not saying that we're headed for a Chad Morris-like disaster. I'm not saying that. But where there's smoke so far, it looks like there's been fire along the line of scrimmage along the offensive line. They took a right step in the right direction last week on the ground. Let's see if they can now put it all together. And if they do, this could be a pretty good ball game. This could be a fun game, at least a good ball game to watch. And then we'll see what happens after that. So that is it. There we go. We got the plane. We landed the plane. It's a nice smooth landing. I just want to say thank you guys. It's a roller coaster ride, but we know this. You guys know this. You've been fans for the Razorbacks for a long time. A lot of you have watched this content for a while. I appreciate you guys. To Patreon supporters, oh my God, you guys are awesome. Thank you so much for those of you who've signed up for Patreon. I know I say that and that falls on a lot of deaf ears, but I do appreciate you guys. And I'm going to try and get some more content uploaded for you on Patreon, assuming I can find the freaking time this weekend between hunting for a new car and trying to watch football and post-game show and all that. But I'm going to try and get you guys some content on Patreon here in the next couple days. If not tonight, maybe sometime this weekend. Again, Discord members, we are going to have we're going to try and have an XP wheel spin event at some point tomorrow. But yeah, and to everyone else watching, make sure you like, share, subscribe on your way out if you are new here. I didn't ask you guys your scores. I apologize, but I'll have to remember to do that. This was the conversation of the state of the program went on a little bit longer than I thought it would, and then we also started off talking about the Twitter stuff too with Sam walking away. Hog football will build you up and break it down. 35-10 says Carrot. That's certainly a possibility. All right. Appreciate you guys. I'll see you tomorrow night. It should be we'll try to make it fun. You guys know I will. The best post-game show anywhere around. It's right here. I'll see you guys tomorrow night. Have a good day. Have a good rest of your Friday.